Well, before I started the workshop, it would be more so at night. Well, it was during the day as well, but at night time, when I would lie down, that's when the problem really began, because I couldn't sleep. The breath, the tightness of the chest would start, and the wheeze would start, and just couldn't sleep, probably because I would start coughing then. And that was kind of went on all through the night. A lot of difficulty that way with the breathing and tightness of the chest. And it was more so at night time when I lay down. So just had no pleasure. Whereas now, since I've been doing that, it's much more, I have much more ease and a lot more comfort in myself. Well, I was on the brown, was it Bexlon, the brown inhaler, and the blue. Here, I forget the name of that one now, because it's so long since I was on it, the blue one. The blue ventilator, wasn't it? The blue one it was more or less for opening your lungways or airways or that, the blue one. So I have neither. I don't have either now. I don't use them at all. I don't feel a use for them, whereas before I would be dependent on them. Well, every time I got in that state of shortness of breath and tightness and the wheeze, I had to sort of use them to get myself back on track. But it wasn't really solving the problem. I was sort of just becoming so more reliant on them, because you had to use them the same thing the following day again, when, I don't know, you would have to use them again and again. So it was a continuous thing of using them, whereas now I'm not using any of them. And when I did get bad, I had quite a few bad winters where I had to have steroids. So touch wood, I don't need them. I haven't had the doctor this year at all. First year in, say, 6 years, because it's like 6 years ago this kind of started triggering me quite badly. And this year I would say I might have had a visit to the doctor once, and it wasn't really due to the chest, it was something else. So that is a good sign that obviously it's doing something for me. Well, actually, I did see it in the media. I read about it, and I did see it on the computer as well. But it was, how would I say, I was hard to convince that this would work for me. And I sort of looked on this a few times, maybe for 2 years. I was reading up on this and thought at the end up, well, it can't do me any harm, more harm than what I'm suffering with. All I can do is give it a go. And it's the best thing I ever did. Because I feel that I'm not feeding my body with, steroids and antibiotics and these inhalers. I'm just doing it naturally by breathing, by changing my method of breathing. It's done a lot for me. Well, it was a case of living in the doctors for the whole of the winter, because I was no sooner out of finishing antibiotic. It was one particular year, and it was just antibiotic. I would maybe go with the doctor, prescribe an antibiotic. After the antibiotic had finished, found still was no good, back changing an antibiotic. And there was one winter I went, I think it was 5 times changing antibiotics. Then I got steroids, and I think that's what really prompted me then that I have to do something, try and look for another method than have to live like this each winter on antibiotics and steroids. Because I started getting really worried, and this is what, as I said, I read a few times about Butuku, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to give it a go. And that was my bad winters that I had. Like, it was just doctor surgery every other week, basically. So that's what I call a bad winter. The method seemed like madness, holding on to your nose and holding your breath and that sort of thing. And I thought, is this really for me? But anyway, I thought I'd persevere on. I would have had a few setbacks then where I would have got very wheezy and coughing and that. But getting back to you said it was cleansing, which I know now it was. But at that time, I was sort of hard to convince to myself, as this cleansing, I'm really starting to suffer the way I did when I was round the doctors, but I still persevered and on the maximum pauses and the shallow breathing as you advised me. And sure enough, I sailed through it. I would say, I started that in June, and it probably was, I would say, November, December. I could finish getting results, but probably maybe that time of year, because of the weather being more damp and cold, had more, maybe had an effect as well. But I would say November and December really felt it. I was getting more benefit from it. But at the beginning, I would say, after a few weeks, I didn't have to use inhaler as much. So probably that would be an effect as well. But probably it was the one that I was more worried about because of having so many bad ones. I thought, oh, am I going to get through the winter on this? And I did. So that was, I can probably say maybe earlier than that, but probably having such a good winter, I can say November and December, I really thought, brilliant. I'm getting through this without inhalers and antibiotics. Oh, there were definitely improvements where I definitely wouldn't be as short of breath. And that way I wouldn't, I could see an improvement coming, that I wasn't as short of breath as what I would be with my normal course during the day. I could feel I could do more and not feel so exhausted from and lacking in energy. So probably felt I had more energy. It didn't take that long to get rid of the cough, because the cough bothered me more at night when I lay down. So that improved when I started doing the breathing. That the cough, that's what sort of kept me awake at night, was the cough. So from very early on, say August, I was sleeping much better. From the cough wasn't definitely there at night time, because that would keep me awake. It would get the short wheeze, and then felt you had to cough, and that was sort of keep me awake. Oh, I was in a month. My sleep was much better. I was getting through, I was getting a good 5-6 hours sleep, whereas before that, I'd be every other hour I was awake, thinking, what time is it? Looking at the clock to see what time it was, and I couldn't believe it when I was sleeping through 5-6 hours at a time without waking. I nearly had my night's sleep through, without waking up. I thought, wow, brilliant. I was wheezing and coughing and spluttering, and you can't sleep while you're doing that. Not possible to sleep and wheeze and smother. It was just when you lay down, you felt yourself smothering because of the wheeze and the cough. I would say about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, the wheeze was not as bad. With 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months, my energy was improving all the time. Because it would make me, this was making you tired during the day, as you couldn't sleep properly at night, and you felt drained during the day because of the lack of sleep. And then when you the wheeze and the cough, you still felt this tightness during the day where your chest was still quite tight. And then you dreaded sort of going to bed at night because the thought of this going to keep you awake again, and the squeeze. So you sort of, most nights you'd be better sitting up than going to bed. You'd be better sitting on a chair than lying down. And at that you still you wouldn't get any sleep because you wouldn't be wheezing as much, but you wouldn't be comfortable. You'd still have the tightness of your chest. Oh, I don't know if I can carry on this every day, and some days trying to fit it in. But I always felt the benefits. I had to do it because I was scared of going back to the position that I was in. And I feel there's some days maybe that I would say very rarely I don't do the practice. I wouldn't miss. But there's some days maybe I miss out on one, and I would get the feeling in the evening, maybe it's more being scared of going back to the situation that I was in. I think, I have to squeeze something in here, maximum pauses, or make sure, because I think I've probably just been scared of going back to the situation I was in, as I say. So I try to get me work done 4 times a day. Well, I would tell them my own situation, and I would recommend it. I would highly recommend it to do it because of the benefits of it. And the fact that I myself was reluctant to in the beginning, and now I look back and think what I've saved myself, and doctors' fees and everything else, it's amazing. This is plus the fact that you're not feeding your body with antibiotics and inhalers and steroids and all the rest. You know, which is in the long run obviously has other side effects. So that'd be my advice. Rather than living on antibiotics and inhalers, it would be better to go and to do the breathing method, and definitely has its benefits in the long run. Symptoms now, if I accept myself into doing something once I do the breathing method, the symptoms ease, and I'm back on track again. What more can I say? Only I would highly recommend it to anybody that was thinking or suffering from those, well, I don't know what other causes it does, but for me, speaking as an asthma sufferer, I definitely found it very beneficial. Still using it, and I would recommend it, highly recommend it, yes.